Okay, I have to admit that I am not the biggest Bowmore fan, but I'm here on Ireland. We wanted to do all the different distilleries, so we're here as well. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Not only were the people great, but the tour was absolutely excellent. So this is the visitor center. Let's start off in the gift shop. So that's me. Very nicely done. A lot of copper, a lot of nice merch there. They have some interesting things that they can actually offer. Of course, we have the woolen cloth. We have some merchandise as shirts and clothing, some jackets, a nice little pot still in the window, book bags, and so on and so on. Let's move over now to Ashton Martin, one of their cooperation partners, and some of the whiskey that they have here. So this is basically the exclusive distillery exclusive. So over here we have a little bit more expensive. Going up here we have the nice little bottle, which is 30,000 pounds. Here we have a 30-year-old that is only 3,000 pounds. Just terrible, terrible to pricing, but that's life, I guess. I'm not the target group. What I did really like is they had a lot of samples. So I didn't buy any myself, but I love the fact that there are samples out there. So look at all these different things that they can offer here. It's excellent that they do have this possibility. So here we have the 10. So we have also then the 19-year-old, which was a Amazon exclusive. Made it over to Germany as well. I think French oak, so not bad. So with the Vaults edition, that's batch number 2. So I actually did a video about that. Very, very nice. Now the 25-year-old is not the most expensive. If you take a look at Lefroy, 25-year-old was 1,600, I think. And here we're at, I think, 350 pounds. So very nicely done. And we have the mirror going up to the bar. Good. All right. So originally we had planned to do the warehouse #1 tasting. It was canceled by Bowmore due to construction to the warehouse. Now, that was very, very sad. And then they offered us to do a warehouse tasting in the bar. And I was like, why not? Very, very nice. And so we got there, we were expecting to do 4 drams, just have a little bit of time together in the bar, and then suddenly they did the real tour with us, which was fantastic. So I must admit the people, our tour guide, Kim, was more than excellent, and we came in with low expectations, and I walked away a fan of the Bowmore Distillery. So the first thing we did, we went to the Malting Floors, and there we actually got to see the different equipment used. So they also have a chariot where they pull the stuff out onto the floor and then they can actually smooth it on out. And this little device here was something each and every one of us got to pull behind them. Look at this. So we did that. That was actually harder work than I thought at the very, very beginning. So the guy had already done it, but we, as the tourists, got to do it again. And so you'd go down the row, turn around, and bring it back up, and make sure all the rows were always nice and tidy and straight. So our second guy on the thing did it as well. And of course, you're walking through this. This is stuff we're going to use. Bowmore uses about 23% of their own malted barley, and the rest they buy themselves there. So very, very nice. If we take a look at the next picture after he turns around, we will actually see the hole in the floor where we push all the grain down after it's been then germinated. So there we have it. And the next thing that was really, really cool are these steps. These steps lead up to the smoking chamber. We were actually in the smoking chamber while it was being smoked. I thought that was so cool. Look at that. Look at that. You can see the smoke rise up. Isn't that just fantastic? There's steel bars on the right and the left, and they can actually churn the barley with that. Here's the peat. They actually, at the old days, they would use up to 30 tons of peat for one load of barley. And now they're actually down to 3 tons because they use this instead of, this is machine cut instead of hand cut. All right, so we actually got to stoke the fire. We got to throw in some peat onto the fire. Look at that. And then we actually went behind the fire. We got to go in the smoke chamber again. This was down below, and we saw the fire from behind. I think this is really, really a cool thing. And this was all before the tour actually really started. So we have the mill, and every mill has, of course, a manufacturer. This is the Portus patent malt mill. So this little counter there actually counts how much barley goes through there. Ronnie Lee, he is the guy who actually maintains and repairs all the different mills in Scotland, just not Islay. And for many, many years, both his sons said, "Nope, Dad, we're not going to take over the business." But he's getting older now; they're actually being trained, and it's a good way to make a lot of money. So there's 100 plus mills on the island. The mash tun at Bowmore, the grist bin, 8 tons. Get a lot of water added in there. Look at that! Isn't that very beautifully done? One of the oldest distilleries, if they say the oldest distillery in Islay. These are water containers, so they keep the hot water over there in those tanks. Mash tuns, Oregon pine, which is larch, which is actually from Scotland, not from Oregon. One of those weird things. Now, the next thing I thought was very interesting. Now, here we have the word Simpsons. It's not spelled correctly. The P should not be in the name. This was the founder of the distillery, the first owner, and each washback got actually a sign for the first owner. And so the tour guide, Kim, had been there for 5 years, and she said, "It's always been up there with the P, and no one changes it." She didn't like it. So the next family that actually came and bought the distillery was called Mutta. They're from Germany. What he did is he actually dug a canal, or he let a canal be dug about 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep from a river, about 6 miles to the distillery, so that they always had enough fresh water for cooling, which I thought was a really, really interesting idea. Leave the Germans to optimize the system here. So moving on to the next group of people that own the distillery, which I had never heard of, Holmes. I'm not great in the history of Bowmore. Then we go over to Sheriffs. And then I like that name. And then we go over here to the next group is called Grigor. So the last ones that actually bought it were the names I know, Morrison. So they now have McTalla and they have Clydeside. And then Morrison sold it over to Beam, and Beam was bought by Suntory. So since 1994, Bowmore has now been in the hands of Beam/Suntory. Let's go to the still house. Over here we do have the 4 pot stills that Bowmore uses, 2 wash stills, 2 spirit stills. So we can actually see the first wash still here. And the second wash still over here, we have actually 30,940 liters. And here we have the spirit still with only 14,700. I must admit I made a mistake with the next picture. It's a little blurry, so sorry. So the spirit safe on the left-hand side, I think that's for the wash, and for the right-hand side, it's the spirit. The first Islay single malt whiskey since 1779. That's their slogan. Now, one thing that really fascinates me at the distillery is always the machinery and the piping going on behind here. I've actually seen this next picture before at a whiskey tasting where people are showing the different pipes and the tubes and the colors and so on. I just thought that was interesting. So here we actually have the spirit still coming off. More in a little bit of spurts, and then the wash still running continuously. So we have a tube and shell condenser, line arm, and we have some water, some barrels being watered outside, and that's actually water. So vault number 1 was closed for us, so when we went to the tasting room and did the tasting there instead, excellent. So we had a bourbon matured, cask strength, single cask, and a sherry. So there was in the room the vault number 1, and then Kim, our tour guide, opened it up, and it turned into this fantastic bar. So we had the two cast samples, as well as we could pick two of any of the bottles at the bar. So she recommended these 5, which were a great idea. So the David Simpson I did not prefer. I just snoozed it a little bit, but the 25-year-old was very, very nice. And then we actually pulled out a cask strength 19-year-old. So I walked into the distillery not being a fan of Bowmore. I walked out of the distillery absolutely being a fan of the distillery called Bowmore. The people there, the tour, everything was more than expected. Just loved it. Bowmore Distillery, I'm still not a fan of the spirit, but I do love being there. Beautiful. Now, fun fact, there used to be a warehouse here. They turned it into a swimming pool, and they used the residual heat here from the distilling and the cooling process to heat the swimming pool. McTaggart is an important person, but they actually have that. They gifted the warehouse and gifted the property to the city of Bowmore, and they use it. So after the tour, we walked outside and we had to take pictures, of course. It's on the bay. There is the Bowmore painted onto the walls there. And it was absolutely a breathtaking experience to be there. So look at that. Bowmore, yay. So we have a nice little video in a second here, and you can actually just enjoy that. Look at that water running out of there. So we had to walk over that to get to the place where you could take the pictures. I hope you enjoy the sounds and sights of the Bay of Bowmore. Here we have some members of our group. And all the way on the other side of the bay you can actually see Buffletti. Thank you very much for watching. WhiskyJason here, Whiskey on Tour on Islay at the moment. All the best. See you soon. Bye-bye.